We're live. We're live. How is everyone doing? Friday Night SmackDown has literally just gone off the air a couple of minutes ago. We always try and get on so quickly. It's honestly you don't see the other side of these things. It's like it's so strange when you're watching the show and you're making the notes. Like I make my notes going through the show and all that kind of stuff, and I still try to go on social media at the same time and still do all of this sort of stuff. And then the moment the show goes off the air, it just turns into this blind panic where everything's just like, oh, I gotta go live now. I gotta go live now. Especially when you get an ending like we just got for SmackDown. Given the ending that we just had with that massive return, I was about to say no spoilers, but I mean it's on the title there. You can see it on the screen. It's on the thumbnail. Aleister Black has officially returned to Friday Night SmackDown. It's his first appearance since he was drafted to SmackDown. It's the first Aleister Black appearance that we've had in, gosh, that was October. So what, October? It was most of October, so let's say October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 9 months, 10 months. Aleister Black appears on WWE programming for the first time in the flesh, in person. Obviously, this comes just days after as well, about a week or so after the announcement, or the reports rather, that his wife Zelina Vega was set to return to WWE, and now Aleister Black, after weeks and weeks and weeks of vignettes, in which there was one tonight on SmackDown as well, there was an Aleister Black vignette. After weeks of it, finally Aleister Black returns to WWE programming. So obviously there is a ton to get into, so we're going to get into the whole show. Again, I don't really like to call them review streams or anything like that. They're reactions. This is just a reaction as a fan to the show of what we just saw. And as always, to be honest, when it comes to SmackDown, especially in comparison to Monday Night Raw, but as always for SmackDown, I enjoyed the show. I thought it was a good show. I don't know if it's just because, I think it is because it is obviously a very good show. SmackDown is a good show. It does deliver most weeks. Is it perfect? No. I don't think any show in pro wrestling, even AEW, Impact, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, no show, it's very difficult to be perfect. And certainly SmackDown does have elements which you do point at, and we are going to point at in this stream, which you go, I don't know about that. But is it a fun show to watch, and is it an enjoyable show to watch every week? Yes. Yes, it is. It's clearly the A show in WWE, not just in terms of content, but also priority. Delivers the biggest ratings because it's on Fox, and obviously it's got the attention of the higher ups. It's got the attentions of the WWE officials. It's got the attentions of Vince McMahon, Bruce Pritchard, all of those people, because it's the big show. It's the big show. So it was an enjoyable show again this week, and very much enjoyed it. Fantastic main event. Really enjoyed that main event. Obviously really enjoyed the surprise of Aleister Black returning at the end of it. As always, really enjoyed the Roman Reigns stuff. I saw some reaction on social media was that, there wasn't enough Roman Reigns stuff on the show, or there wasn't, we could have had more Roman Reigns stuff. I disagree. I don't think so. I think it was a fun show, and I thought it was an interesting show. Does it really set up what Roman Reigns is going to be doing heading into Hell in a Cell? No, not properly as of yet. We did kind of get a challenge by Cesaro. I don't know if that one's actually going to happen though. But it was a fun show. It was an interesting show. So let's get straight into it. There's obviously so much to get into. Obviously, this came on the back of WWE announcing the return to touring. That was announced today as well. We did a video talking about that, so be sure to check that out on the channel. Of course, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. Smash a like on the like button too. It really does help us out here on YouTube. Get up the rankings, get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But what a show. What a show. Now, the post-WrestleMania Backlash edition of SmackDown began with the SmackDown Parade of Champions to open the show. And I tell you what, I enjoyed this. I did enjoy this because it's different. It's different in that there are so many WWE shows, Raw and SmackDown, that every single week you know exactly how they're going to open up. And if you know how the show is going to open up, sometimes with like Raw, it can be like 2 minutes into the show, or not even that, 30 seconds into the show, and then you hit someone's music and they walk out and they're going to do a promo to start the show, and you go, oh, because it's the same. It's so formulaic. It's like I know exactly what I'm going to see. And even the end of the segment, I was a bit perturbed by, shall we say. But I did enjoy the concept for this one because it was a little bit different, and different's good. Different's a good thing. So I did enjoy this segment. So what it was, the SmackDown Parade of Champions, we had Sonya Deville, WWE official, opening the show in a great suit, as always. I think when it comes to Sonya Deville, this is my idea that I've pitched for Raw and SmackDown. Given that The Miz is out of action with an injury and potentially out of action for a long time with an injury, given that he is out with an injury, maybe 7 to 9 months, make him the general manager of Raw. I know, and I'm not one that's really big on authority figures. I know. But I think that, and we've had a bit of crossover on this show with some Raw stars coming over, which again we'll touch on that in a second. I think if you're going to return fans to the arenas and you're going to have a reset of WWE programming and all that kind of stuff, why not just go, okay, they're separate brands, general managers, let's do that. The general manager concept's been rested, let's go back to that. Make Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce the general managers of SmackDown, the co-general managers. They've got their storyline going on. And then make The Miz, while he's out of action with injury, make him the general manager of Raw. Keep him on Monday nights. Lord knows Raw needs him for his entertainment factor and just to make the show better. Do something like that. So obviously Sonya Deville brings up WWE's return to touring and says that Adam Pearce is out on assignment tonight scouting locations. And we then have all of the champions for SmackDown on stage, minus the Universal Champion himself, Roman Reigns. He was going to get introduced at some point in this segment. So you've got all the champions on there on the stage, and Sonya Deville runs through all of the names. You've got the Mysterios, the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. You've got Natalya and Tamina, the Women's Tag Team Champions. You've got Apollo Crews, who then interrupts Sonya Deville, and he says that regardless of the horrendous main event that's been booked against him tonight, he will be victorious. I thought it was a good promo, actually, from Apollo Crews. I thought the facial reactions were great, and in fairness, because I'm not one of these people that's always going to criticize people or anything like that. I don't like to do that. I'm willing to say when people are improving and all that kind of stuff. I'm still not massively sold on the accent, not because of it being a Nigerian accent. I've heard a Nigerian accent before. My issue was with Apollo Crews and the accent is that it just wasn't a very good version of the accent. And I know the idea is that it's meant to get heat and it's meant to annoy me. And if it's annoying me, I guess he's doing his job, right? That's what people will say. It just came across as bad acting. And in the same vein of if you're watching a television show and someone's doing a bad accent and it's bad acting, you'll stop watching the television show because you'll say, the guy who's doing this, or the woman, equality, whoever is doing this, it's bad acting. So I don't really know what they're doing. In fairness, though, to Apollo Crews, and I said this at the time, I don't know if he has been working with a dialect coach or someone that can help him out with the accent, or just by doing it over and over and over and over and over again for weeks and weeks and weeks at this point. I don't know if I'm getting used to it, or I don't know if he's getting better at it. Probably the latter. I think he's probably getting better. The accent is getting better, and it is becoming slightly more believable. So I'll give him credit for that because it was a good promo. So Sonya Deville then says, and obviously here comes our Universal Champion Roman Reigns. She introduces Roman Reigns, but Roman Reigns doesn't come out. Out comes Paul Heyman to Roman Reigns' old music. So Paul Heyman finally has some entrance music, and it's a remix version of the Shield's entrance music, which is hilarious. But there was concern on social media at the time. There was some concern that, oh my God, have they got rid of Roman Reigns' new entrance music only a couple of weeks after debuting some new one? No. But don't worry, it's not the case. So Heyman rather says that they're not champions, they're title holders, and says that we will have a parade of champion tonight at Roman Reigns' ledger, not everyone else's. Now out comes Bayley after this. She's the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion in SmackDown history. She runs down the babyface champions, except obviously Apollo Crews, the heel champion, waves to him because heels have got to stick together, right? She then calls Bianca Belair a cheater. She said she used the hair at WrestleMania to win. She used the hair at Backlash to win. She's a cheater. She's not wrong, which is important because the best heels, when they're cutting their promos, the best heels, everything they say has an element of truth in it. That makes the best heels. The best heels are doing these promos that get you to hate them, but when you actually listen to what they say, you go, well, they're not wrong. That's the best heel. So I enjoyed that Bayley promo a lot. I really did. Bianca Belair takes exception to this. She comes down and says, well, if you want the Women's Championship, come and take it. Bayley backs off. And then out of nowhere, come Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Monday Night Raw's Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, I must say. They come out and attack Bianca Belair. So this brings down, of course, Tamina and Natalya, who won the tag team titles off of Jax and Baszler last week to make the save. But they get beaten down by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And as soon as this happened, and they went to commercial break, and as soon as it happened, I went, well, we're getting a tag team match, because that's what WWE does. If you have a brawl of 6 people or 4 people or whoever in the opening segment, it's going to lead to a tag match, because that's how things work in WWE. I mentioned how I enjoyed the opening segment because it was different. It wasn't as formulaic as we see opening Raw and SmackDown. And how did they end it? They ended it with something formulaic. We see this all the time on Raw. They've got to fill time. So what do? Promo, brawl, tag team match when you come back from break. That's what they do all the time. On Raw, this is the most frustrating one that they'll do. They'll have an opening segment where it's a promo and it's 2 people. They start having a go at each other. They start fighting and it's brawling as we go into commercial, come back, or an impromptu match has been made. Then suddenly their tag team partners come down during it. Disqualification, go to break. An impromptu tag team match has been made. Sometimes they've done it where someone else comes down. They've got an impromptu 6-man tag match has been made. It's just horrendous. It is so formulaic and so frustrating. Honestly, it drives me insane when they do that. So as soon as we had the brawl in this opening segment, it was like, right, we're getting a tag match when we come back. They didn't even have to announce it at this point. We're so preconditioned as an audience. We're so preconditioned that this is what we're going to get. You knew what was going to happen. But apart from that, I did enjoy the opening segment. I thought the whole Champions Parade stuff, I thought that was pretty unique and a different way to set stuff up. And then again, they just fell into their trap of, there's the irony is that they've got this giant creative team and they can't come up with anything original. It's ridiculous. Let's check in the live chat. Tavon McKenzie says, hey, how you doing, Tavon? Simply Beyond says, SmackDown was pretty decent tonight. Misterioso. Jack, my pronunciation of that was awful. How you doing, Jack? Thanks everyone that's joining us so far. Smash a like on the like button. If you enjoyed SmackDown tonight, be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. So obviously, as I mentioned, surprise, surprise, we come back, a 6-person tag team match. Oh, you'd never have guessed it. You'd never have guessed this is where they were going with it. But they did. It was so predictable. It was made official by Sonya Deville during the break, according to Michael Cole. Now, you might be thinking, because you might be thinking, well, how come Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are on SmackDown tonight? They are superstars from Monday Night Raw. They're no longer the women's tag team champions, so surely they shouldn't be able to be on SmackDown, right? Well, WWE attempted to post some logic there, but it's the worst kind of logic ever. Michael Cole said, quote, taking advantage of the brand-to-brand invitational, which allows them to appear on the other brand once in a quarter. Oh, the brand-to-brand invitational is still a thing, so that's really disappointing. And look, I understand that if they didn't try and explain the logic, we would be all over them for not trying to explain the logic. I get that. But it's just the worst. The brand-to-brand invitational is basically WWE admitting that we know we set our own rules up, but we can't follow our own rules, so we're just going to rewrite them. And as someone watching at home or as an audience, you then, again, it goes back to Monday Night Raw when you advertise a WWE Championship match and don't deliver it. Where is the credibility? There is no credibility. When you tell your audience we're going to have 2 separate brands and only these superstars are going to appear on these brands, you're lying. And as an audience, even if you know that WWE has the intentions of sticking to it, they never will. And it comes to this brand-to-brand invitation. They put these loopholes in there, and it just means it gives them a way out when they can't be bothered to follow the rules. Oh, the brand-to-brand invitational, the wild card rule, all this kind of stuff. It's just, can you not have a brand split? Obviously not. They can't. Now, the brand split is here to stay, and it is kind of enforced, maybe. But I preferred it when these were separate entities. They're not separate entities. They're not. And it's just beyond frustrating. It's just, if you can't do it, don't do it. That's the frustrating thing, I think, with it. And then they come up with these loopholes, like they're so smart when they're writing the rules that they can't follow. It's It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like I said, I appreciate the effort to try and provide some logic, but the logic's stupid and it's frustrating. Anyway, so the match happens. Bianca Belair did a dive from the top rope, landed on her opponents, and clutched the knee as they headed to commercial. So they played up a bit of an injury to Bianca Belair. But once we got back from the break, there were some hot tags to Tamina and Natalya. The closing moments of the match saw Bayley hit a Bayley to belly on Bianca Belair on the outside of the ring. This allowed Shayna Baszler to make Natalya tap out to the Kirifuda clutch in the ring. Now, this was a fun match. Really don't get the outcome. And again, talking about being predictable and knowing where this was going, as soon as Shayna Baszler tapped out Natalya, my mind then went, well, there's a rematch coming. There's a rematch coming, and it's just, again, it's predictable. You know where they're going with it. You knew where it was going, and we got confirmation that a rematch was heading on later on in the night. We'll get there as we get there through the show, but I just didn't get the outcome. You have these new champions. They beat their challengers twice. They beat them on SmackDown. They beat them on Raw. Now they lose. So the momentum they once had is now gone because they lost now, and the champions are already losing. They're only, 7 days into their new title reign, and they're already losing in matches. And it just means that this Nia Jackson, Shayna Baszler feud with Tamina and Natalya will continue, which nobody asked for. Nobody asked for. We had the feel-good moment. The feud's over. You had the rematch on Raw on Monday. Wasn't that keen on that, considering that you said rematches weren't happening anymore? But it happened. It's over. And it goes back to this weird narrative that WWE has. The only way WWE can set up championship feuds, it feels like, is by having the champions lose. They do it all the time. How can we set up this championship feud? Let's have the champions lose in a non-title match that sets up a rematch, or that sets up a match at the pay-per-view, and that's where we go. It's just bizarre. You've got these new champions. Get them over as a tag team. How do you get them over? We'll have them lose to the former champions that have been losing to these champions for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Where is the logic there? I mean, that is 50-50 booking at its finest. And we won't have new champions on Monday either. It was just a method to get a rematch on Monday. We need a rematch on Monday. Why? Because we're already trying to fill time on that 3-hour show that we struggled to fill every single week. It was just, like I said, that was my reaction. Just, again, talking about being predictable, as soon as Natalya tapped out. And by the way, I'm all for Shayna Baszler getting a win because she's been losing all the time on television. But as soon as they did that, it's like, you know where this is going. And it was a fun match, but again, the outcome, really didn't understand that one. So we then go to a Big E interview backstage with Kayla Braxton, hyping up the main event for the Intercontinental Championship. Man, oh man. I mean, we know this anyway, but what a promo. What a promo Big E is. I mean, he is such a good promo. I mean, the guy is dripping with charisma. He really is. He's dripping with charisma. So he talks about having to win tonight, all this kind of stuff. To be honest, I was struggling to listen to what he said. I was just thinking as I was doing my notes and posting on social media. I was like, this guy is so entertaining that I'm not even really listening to what he's saying, and I'm entertained. It's incredible. And my thought process is, and we obviously, Big E looks to be feuding with Aleister Black now going forward, which is intriguing. But once we get to Money in the Bank in July, for me, there's only one guy that should be the Money in the Bank holder. That's Big E. Give him the Money in the Bank briefcase, set up Roman Reigns versus Big E at WrestleMania or something like that, or some way down the line, because Big E is money in the bank. He really is. He's a future Universal Champion. WWE would have to do something very, very crazy to screw him up. And I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, but man, the guy's got charisma. So we then go to an Aleister Black vignette, throwing people off that Aleister Black would be appearing in the main event segment of SmackDown tonight. So it's Tales of the Dark Father, Chapter 4. Apparently that's it. Apparently there's only 4 chapters. Pretty small book for Aleister Black. Pretty quick book. My kind of book, by the way. I don't like the long books. So he then talks about how Father's lessons are on his body, referring to his tattoos. I guess then Father's reasons and lessons are the reason he can't go to Saudi Arabia, because that's why he can't go to Saudi Arabia, because of his tattoos. Some have religious connotations. So blame his father for that one. He then talks about it's time to cull the herd. And again, great. I mean, I love these vignettes. I know some people are a bit undecided on them. I really don't get that, because I think they're great. I think WWE have done a really good job with this. I think this goes to show WWE's level of production. These kind of vignettes are where you go, WWE, their production is next level, because the graphics, the delivery by Aleister Black, the setting with the candles, even the book is a bit hokey, I'll get that, but the animation, the music, the lighting, all of it's brilliant. All of it's really, really good. So I really enjoyed the Aleister Black vignettes, and it's a shame, to be honest, that now he's back, that they're over. Nevertheless, we go from this to King Corbin versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This is a new feud on SmackDown, isn't it? Started last week. So King Corbin comes out, and he has no crown. And to be honest, I guess this is just a testament of how long he's been the king of the ring for, which is way too long, by the way. I'm not even a fan of the king gimmick anyway, of winning the king of the ring. I think it's stupid. Why everyone has to do that, I don't know. And hi, McCarg, who's in the chat. Hi, how you doing? It's just been going on too long. But he does look weird without the crown on. And I guess just shows how long King Corbin's been king of the ring for, I suppose. So they show some clips of Nakamura on social media this week, driving around with the crown on. He was driving around with it, I guess, in Florida. He was there with his cat, which was funny. Corbin then gets on the mic and talks about the disrespect of Nakamura stealing the crown, wearing it around. He says that a king wears $40,000 watches, owns dogs of war, not a shabby tabby cat, referring to Nakamura's cat. So I guess Nakamura has cat heat. He then calls out Shinsuke Nakamura for a match, and then Rick Boogs comes out. Yes, NXT superstar Rick Boogs makes his SmackDown main roster debut. Surprising debut, came out of nowhere. Now, if you're not familiar with Boogs, he's not really a staple of NXT by any stretch of the imagination. He's kind of a comedic figure on NXT. He's best known on NXT for doing all of this air guitar stuff. Like he's a rocker, I guess. He's got the big mustache, got the big hair, and he air guitars. But on SmackDown, he's playing an electric guitar. So he comes out, he says he come to rock with the real king of SmackDown in Shinsuke Nakamura, and then plays guitar to Shinsuke Nakamura's entrance theme, which, to be honest, he did a pretty good job. I mean, Nakamura had a great WrestleMania entrance with Nita Strauss back at WrestleMania 34, obviously the guitarist for Alice Cooper. Now, I'm not saying that Boogs is on the level of Strauss, but he was pretty damn good playing Nakamura's entrance theme. It was charismatic, it was different, it was unique, and it was a lot of fun. And Pat McAfee just took this way over the top, which was great as well. Pat McAfee's so great, by the way. There was so many times on SmackDown tonight where he was awesome. He is so good at what he does. Really so good at what he does. I know people were skeptical. The video's out there on the channel. When it first was announced that he was going to be taking the seat on SmackDown in the color commentary, I thought it was great because color commentary is all about personality and all about character. I think it's kind of been taken away from that over the course of the last few years. But look at the best color commentators. They don't really care about the action. They care about the character. And that's Pat McAfee to a T. He's fantastic. So as Rick Boogs is playing guitar, Pat McAfee's jumping up in the air. He's air guitaring on Michael Cole, which was great. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a real unique entrance. I don't know how long it can last and be original and unique for. It's going to be interesting. It's an odd pairing. A really odd pairing of Nakamura versus and Boogs as a pairing. But, I mean, I was saying before, I did a news video this week, and I was saying about Nakamura that he spoke about that he's still struggling to adapt here to the American style of wrestling and the promos and all that kind of stuff. And my point was at the time, if WWE knows this, they know money's there to be made with Nakamura, but they refuse to give him a mouthpiece. They refuse to give him a manager or someone that can really do his promos for him, hide the negatives. They did it in Sami Zayn and it worked. So why would they take that away from him? I don't know if Boogs fits that category. I don't know if he can really be a mouthpiece. I think it's, I guess they're going back to calling Nakamura the rock star, right? And what does a rock star have? He has a guitarist. I think WWE probably looked at that. But I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. The only thing I would say is, and I said this on social media, and I think it is pretty accurate, is what really is the difference between Rick Boogs and Elias? Not a lot in terms of the gimmick. Right, they're two musicians that play guitar, and on top of that, they look pretty similar. They're two jacked up guys that play guitar and are quirky and off the wall. I mean, there isn't a ton of difference. So, I mean, I guess Survivor Series is in November. Let's have Elias versus Rick Boogs. I mean, you've got the SmackDown version of Elias versus the Raw version of Elias, I guess. I don't know. So we do have a rematch from last week, where in the closing moments, Corbin hits a deep six, Nakamura kicks out, but then Rick Boogs plays Nakamura's theme once again on the announce desk, and this was a real prominent feature of WWE television this week, which I'm going to get into. I said at the start of the stream, not everything is perfect, and this is a great example of it. So Rick Boogs is playing Nakamura's theme on the announce desk, and wouldn't you know it, King Corbin starts getting distracted, because apparently in this modern world of pro wrestling, if anyone anywhere makes a noise, you have to get distracted. Or if there's music playing, you have to get distracted. Or if someone, I was going to say if someone coughs, but you probably should get distracted, to be honest, even now. But if anyone appears or there's any noise, you have to get distracted. That's it. That's what happens. So Boogs plays Nakamura's theme on the announce desk, and Corbin gets distracted. Oh, what's that noise? What's that noise? And then because he's distracted, Nakamura rolls him up for the victory. Don't get me wrong, enjoyed the match, enjoyed the Nakamura and Boogs pairing. I think there's something there. I don't know how long for, but I think there's something there. But another distraction roll-up. I was so frustrated on Raw this week for a variety of reasons. To be honest, just because I was watching it. But I was so frustrated with Raw this week because there was at least, I think, 3 or 4 matches on Raw this week where there was a distraction and a roll-up. That is WWE's most favorite finish. They love that finish. If they're struggling, where to go? Well, someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Do we want to do a DQ? No, we don't really want to do a DQ. We've already done about 10 of those on this show. Oh, what should we do? Distraction roll-up? Yeah, write it down. Write it down. Good idea. Write it down. That's good. That's good. Every single show, there is at least one distraction roll-up on every show. I think if you started counting them, you would go insane after about 3 weeks because you'd have already like 10 million. It's all the time. All the time. Raw, as I mentioned, had about 3 or 4 this week, and now another on SmackDown. Distraction roll-up. It's just constant. Constant distraction roll-up. I mentioned it before with the 24/7 championship. The most devastating finisher in WWE history, but especially WWE today, isn't the end of days. It's not the Claymore. It's not the Spear. It's not Roman Reigns' guillotine. It's nothing to do with that. It's not the Hurt Lock. It is the devastating schoolboy roll-up or small package. Because apparently you can't kick out of them, especially when music's playing. It's so frustrating because it's such a lazy finish. And you do all the hard work. You do all the hard work in having a great match, getting the fans invested in a match. And what do you do at the end? Music plays. Oh, what's that music playing? Oh, no, small package. And then you get pinned every time. Do something different. Do something creative. You've got about 500 writers there. You've got this creative team and you can't come up with a different finish. It's not even the fact that it's a bad finish. I mean, it's not a great finish, but what's worse than that is it's used all the time. It's used all the time. It's so frustrating, so frustrating. So after that, we go to Sonya Deville in the back, and Jimmy Uso goes up to Sonya Deville, and he says next week he wants to team up with his brother. Once again, hasn't teamed up with his brother Jay in over a year, and says next week the Usos are back. We want a match against the Street Profits. And Sonya Deville gives them the match, says, right, next week, Uso Street Profits. Needs to be done ahead of time because it needs to be promoted. So then the discussion is, well, obviously Jey Uso wasn't there. Are they on the same page? Sonya Deville does say to him, well, I wasn't even sure if you were on the same page. I thought Jey Uso was kind of with Roman Reigns. He goes, no. He's my brother. He's my twin brother. We're united. We're going to face the Street Profits next week. So then this leads nicely into the Roman Reigns Parade of Champion segment. So out comes Roman Reigns. To be honest, I mean, looking great. I mean, talk about a merch god. He was wearing a Roman Reigns tracksuit and some Air Jordans. Looks unbelievable. Just such a badass. And I tweeted this out during this time because it's so true. I mean, it really is so true. SmackDown really is the Roman Reigns show at this point. I mean, you can joke about it and say about he's the best thing in WWE, which he is, and the most compelling thing on WWE television, arguably one of the hottest things in pro wrestling in general right now. But SmackDown is the Roman Reigns show. Nobody is anywhere near him. Anywhere near him. Nobody is even close to his level. Nobody can touch him in terms of not just his matches, but just his presentation, that intangible it factor, the promos, everything. Nobody is anywhere near Roman Reigns right now. He's just so good. He's just so good, so compelling. So he's using his new music as well, which was a relief, because for a brief second, there was a concern that they'd scrapped that already. So we then go to commercial, come back, there's a Kevin Owens promo, says that he's going to win the Intercontinental Championship tonight. Spoiler, he didn't. And I don't think he wanted to. I think he did an interview on the bump where they were like, do you want to win the Intercontinental Championship? And he's like, no. Which, God bless Kevin Owens. Anyway, so after the Kevin Owens promo, we then have a recap package of the Universal Championship match from WrestleMania Backlash a week ago. And to be honest, at that point, I thought, how long are they taking to get to this Roman Reigns promo? Because the Reigns entrance, as you may be aware, is a bit of a long one. Then we go to commercial break. Then we come back to Kevin Owens. Then we go to a recap package. I was looking at the watch going, they're really trying to cut some time down. They do it all the time. I mean, I get it for Raw. You've got 3 hours. But you've got 2 on SmackDown. You're struggling to fill 2 hours on Fox. Come on, like, keep the pacing up. It was odd. So Reigns says that he doesn't want to brag. He says he teaches his sons humility. So instead of bragging, he's going to give his special counsel a chance to celebrate him. Now, Paul Heyman, who is always just incredibly entertaining, Paul Heyman then pulled back his suit jacket and had a microphone in his pocket like he had like a gun in a holster. It was excellent, because that's so true for Paul Heyman. That is his weapon. I mean, he's not... Anyone could beat up Paul Heyman. I could beat up Paul Heyman at the moment, even in this state, even at 3:30 in the morning over here in the United Kingdom. I probably have a good shot at beating up Paul Heyman. But what is his weapon is the microphone. So I just love the idea of him flicking open his jacket and having the gun as the weapon. The microphone, that would be a bit concerning. Brian Pillman, he had the microphone as the weapon, which was fun. So Heyman then runs through all of the opponents that Roman Reigns has beaten since returning. Of course, he's unbeaten since he returned last year. Heyman acknowledges Roman Reigns and celebrates the prominent champion of all of sports entertainment. And he then says, this was very Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. This was like Thanos and Ebony Maw. Any of the Marvel fans out there will know what I mean by this. It was very much like the big dominating guy and then his sort of subservient follower. And said, your wish is my command. I bow to your grandeur. It was all this kind of stuff. It was very entertaining. It really was. It's a completely different Heyman to the Heyman that we see with Brock Lesnar, which is interesting, which is very nice. Just everything's just, again, everything Roman Reigns touches at the moment on SmackDown is just brilliant. It really is brilliant. So Heyman, after he goes through and celebrates Roman Reigns, says, well, what can I do for you? Your wish is my command. And Reigns says, bring me my cousin. So Heyman then just starts losing it. Everyone at ringside going, play Jimmy Uso's music. Bring out Jimmy Uso. But Jimmy Uso doesn't come out. Instead, it's Cesaro, which was surprising that he was on SmackDown. I thought he was going to sell the effects of the Seth Rollins attack at WrestleMania Backlash this past weekend, but he didn't. So out comes Cesaro. He's wearing a sling. And he says, look, I was backstage looking for Seth Rollins, but I couldn't find him. And all I kept hearing was the yapping of Paul Heyman. So Reigns then starts talking some trash to Cesaro. He says, do you want to come back in here? I'll break your other arm. And you've got one bad arm anyway. And Cesaro embraces his inner Monty Python. He goes, merely a flesh wound. He's like the Black Knight in the Monty Python story. Merely a flesh wound. And then he challenges Reigns to a rematch at Hell in a Cell. Now, before Reigns could answer the challenge here, and I don't think that they're going in that direction. I really don't think so. I have a feeling that Reigns versus Cesaro was a one-off, because the only thing I will say is I don't know who faces Reigns at Hell in a Cell, realistically. There's not a lot of challengers at this point. But out of nowhere, before Reigns can answer, out comes Seth Rollins. And as always, because he is the king of drip on SmackDown, not that I know what drip means, but he's the king of it. I believe, as the kids would say, it's something to do with style and jackets and shirts, because that is the case. That's what Seth Rollins is the king of. You got the king of strong style. You got King Corbin, who's the king of something. And you've also got Seth Rollins, who's the king of drip, because he comes out in his latest outrageous jacket and shirt. And Rollins just starts beating the hell out of Cesaro. And he's screaming at him, when are you going to learn? When are you going to learn? And just beats the hell out of him. Of course, Cesaro's already injured. The referees chase off Rollins. Rollins runs away up the entrance ramp. And the referees are attending to Cesaro. But then Rollins comes back, attacks Cesaro once again, stomps Cesaro on the outside. The agents now come down, because the referees aren't enough. The agents come down, and they always pick the shortest agents. It's always Jamie Noble, Pat Buck. Everyone that's sort of like just not even 6 foot. Make the superstars look big. It's all about perception, guys. So the agents chase off Rollins, but then Rollins jumps the barricade and hits a stomp on Cesaro, this time on the entrance ramp. And Seth Rollins was selling the hell out of this. I mean, he was wide-eyed. He was like full on giving it that. That would have been the thumbnail for this stream if Aleister Black hadn't returned. So Seth Rollins is going crazy. Just absolutely, he's incensed by what we don't know. I think just Cesaro, he's incensed. He's so upset. So Cesaro does a stretcher job. So I'm assuming at some point we will get the local medical facility update when it comes to Cesaro. about his injuries. To be honest, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun segment. I enjoyed the Roman Reigns stuff because I always do. I enjoyed the Paul Heyman stuff. I thought that was great. And then I enjoyed the Seth Rollins and Cesaro stuff. And I've mentioned before when it comes to Rollins and Roman Reigns that obviously Roman Reigns' gimmick at the moment, he's a mafia-style boss, and he's got his family. He's the tribal chief. He's the head of the table, and everything he does is for the family. Well, just because you're not blood related doesn't mean you're not part of the family. I think that's something worth considering when it comes to Reigns and Rollins. This is the second time now, maybe even the third time, that we've had a little bit of a Reigns and Rollins involvement in the same segment. And I have a feeling where we're ending up is that Seth Rollins joins Roman Reigns' family. As I mentioned, when they were part of the Shield, they were brothers. Not by blood, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be bound by blood to be family. So I think that Rollins eventually joins the Roman Reigns family. I think eventually he acknowledges Roman Reigns and something goes from there. I think it's interesting. I think certainly seeds are being planted here. Now, what does this look like? Is it the 2021 version of the two-man power trip? Of course, in, what was that, 2001, just after Steve Austin turned heel at WrestleMania 17, you had the two-man power trip with Steve Austin and Triple H with Vince McMahon, which got cut short because of Triple H's injury. It would have been interesting to see where that actually went in the end. But could you see a similar version? Could we see a similar version this year? But this time it's Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns as the two-man power trip, and Seth Rollins joins the family. And then you've got a faction that has Roman Reigns, the Usos, Paul Heyman, and Seth Rollins. That's a pretty mega faction on Friday Night SmackDown. That's very interesting. Now, do we get Cesaro versus Rollins at Hell in a Cell? I think that's likely. Does Reigns even have a match at Hell in a Cell? I think he has to, but I don't see who against. I don't see triple threat matches or anything like that. Maybe the most likely opponent for Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell is his cousin, is Jimmy Uso. In the same vein that he had to tap out and had to teach his cousin Jey Uso a lesson inside Hell in a Cell, maybe he does the same thing to his cousin Jimmy. I think that makes sense. I think when it comes to Rollins, what was great is that it's almost like the crazier Seth Rollins' suits get, the crazier Seth Rollins' mindset gets. The attire reflects the state of mind, which I don't know if it's that deep, but it would certainly be great if it was. So that was interesting. So we go to break because obviously Cesaro's being stretchered out. And we come back and Seth Rollins is being interviewed backstage. This was really probably my favorite part of all of this because I thought this was so good. I thought this was so entertaining. So Seth Rollins is being interviewed and goes up to him and goes like, Seth, what happened out there? And he acts like he doesn't know. He's like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened out there. I blacked out. I lost my mind. I blacked out. And then this is what I kind of, when you sort of step back and you go, where's the logic here? So Seth Rollins, who just attacked Cesaro, he just did 2 curb stomps to him. One was on the steel stage. He attacked him at WrestleMania Backlash as well. He's beating this guy up twice in a row. So what do they do when they're wheeling out Cesaro on the stretcher to take him to the local medical facility? What do? Wheel him past the guy that just attacked him. Why would you do that? What irresponsible medical stuff? Oh yeah, Seth Rollins just absolutely destroyed this guy, stamped his head into the ground twice, one on steel. What do? Roll him past him, because that would happen in real life, wouldn't it? What a ridiculous, well, why would that work anyway? It didn't bother me too much because this is when it got really entertaining. Just once again, the moment that Seth Rollins lays eyes on Cesaro, once he sees him again, he just loses his mind again. He just starts screaming at him, starts getting in his face, going, "When are you going to learn?" And at one point, he even starts nearly crying. I mean, it was over the top. And like I said, some of the logic of why would he be rolled past Seth Rollins? He just attacked him, but I thought it was incredibly entertaining. I thought it was really entertaining, and this is a different Seth Rollins at this point. We haven't really seen the Monday Night Messiah and all that kind of stuff and the SmackDown Savory for a while. That gimmick's gone. But I wasn't really sure recently what the Seth Rollins gimmick was anymore. Because, yes, he had the loud suits and the loud jackets and the loud attire and all that kind of stuff. But what is the Seth Rollins gimmick? I wasn't sure now. And now we're kind of finding out what this new Seth Rollins gimmick is. The guy's nuts. The guy's crazy. He's lost his mind. He's just completely unhinged. He's wearing these really loud suits and he's out of his mind. I think it's great. I think it's really entertaining. like I said, I mean, this segment just really cemented it for me. I was like, man, this guy is off his rocker. I mean, he's attacking Cesaro. He's got his eyes bulging out of his head, and he doesn't even know he's doing it. He's like, I blacked out. I just lost my mind. He's kind of getting this split personality, or someone that just can't control himself. He's just filled with rage. And I thought it was great. It was so entertaining, just to the point of the way that he just transitioned so quickly. He was like, he was really sincere. Like, I don't know what happened. Then he just saw him, he just lost his mind again. It was great. I thought it was fantastic. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Really loved it. Anyway, David's in. He says, your channel is great. Really appreciate that, David. He says, it's such a great wrestling channel, and I don't understand why you don't have that many followers. Well, look, these things take time, David. We're building. We've got a great community here at Wrestle News 365. It's growing every single day. So the best thing to do, watch the videos, watch the streams, smash a like on the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share the videos. Go on social media, share the videos. Really does help us out here, but I appreciate all the support. I really do. So going back to SmackDown, next up we had Dominic Wistero versus Bobby Roode. What is he at this point? Is it Bobby or Robert? I mean, he's gone through so many variations of that at this point. Anyway, so obviously Dominic Wistero is one half of the new SmackDown Tag Team Champions. We then have Robert Roode come down with Dolph Ziggler, and Roode runs down Dominic before the match because that's what they like to do. They like to bully the young kid. I was assuming, because I was thinking, like, why are they doing this? I'm assuming that they're just trying to make Dominic an underdog like his dad, I guess. In the same vein that Rey Mysterio was an underdog because he was small, because of his stature, and he was in a big man environment at the time. I guess now it's kind of a case of Dominic Mysterio is an underdog because he's young and he's inexperienced, and that's kind of what they're trying to do. I guess so. A thing that did kind of bother me, though, was that Dominic Mysterio had injuries that were so severe that we were led to believe on Sunday that he was ruled out of competing in that SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. Now, he did eventually, but they were so severe that they told Rey Mysterio to get another partner. 5 days later, he's fine. He's fine. Not only did he win the SmackDown Tag Team Championship, he's totally fine, and he didn't sell any of the injuries. So what a miracle recovery Dominic Mysterio has had over the course of the last 5 days. That was a bit weird. Anyway, Dominic Mysterio gets the victory. He hits a 619 and a frog splash on Robert Roode and gets a win. Big win for Dominic Mysterio over a veteran. I'm digging the tag team, obviously. I think a lot of people wanted to see Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The father and son tag team. It's great. It's wholesome. Crowds would love it. Crowds absolutely love it. I was thinking that, knowing now that crowds are going to be returning in July, this is going to be a popular act. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a popular act. So crowds going to be into it. Father-son tag team's great. Tag team division gets some extra focus, hopefully, so that's good. I just want them to move on from the Mysterios versus Ziggler and Roode. We've seen it about a million times at this point. Let's move on. I know it's the rematch culture in WWE, but kind of enough's enough. You know, let's move on from that. So next we have Jey Uso backstage, and his brother Jimmy Uso comes up to him, says, look, I've already arranged it. Don't worry about it. We're tagging next week. We're going to face the Street Profits. And Jey Uso's taken aback, and he's very frustrated with his brother about this. He's very upset that Jimmy didn't tell him. Why didn't you tell me about this? And Jimmy says, well, it doesn't matter. Roman Reigns says he doesn't need you. And if he doesn't need you, it's not about Roman Reigns. It's about us. We're a tag team. We've always been a tag team. We're twin brothers. And Jey goes, look, I need to tell Roman Reigns about this. I owe him that much. And Jimmy looks incredibly disappointed with him about this. And it was just, and again, I know I'm waxing lyrical all the time about Roman Reigns and the Reigns storylines. Even when Reigns isn't in the segments, I'm waxing lyrical about him. But this is just really good storytelling. It's like a really good television soap drama, which are rare. But it's so great. Just prolonged weekly storytelling. It's great because Jey Uso, from someone that earlier on, when Reigns first came back and they were having that feud, Clash of Champions in Hell in a Cell last year, that was so defiant, is now been so emasculated. He looks like such a bitch. He really does. And you know, as a viewer at home, Jimmy's going to fall in line eventually. The exact same thing's going to happen to him. And I guess, like I mentioned earlier, I guess Jimmy's the natural opponent for Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell. And his fate will be exactly the same as Jay's was. So I really did enjoy this. So we then go to commercial. We come back. Roman Reigns is backstage. It's a continuation of the Roman Reigns drama, the Roman Reigns show, the best show on WWE television right now. So Jey, he's almost apologizing already. He's looking scared of intimidated Reigns. He goes, look, I had nothing to do with that tag match. That was Jimmy Uso. That was Sonya Deville. They organized it. I had no idea about it. And Reigns stands up, gets in his face, and goes, who are we? He says that Jimmy Uso is being selfish right now. He points at himself, points at Jey Uso, says, this is we. Jimmy Uso and you isn't we. This is we. And then he hugs his cousin. And the whole time in this segment, which I thought was great, Reigns is whispering. And you know that's a Vince McMahon choice. A Vince McMahon choice about whispering is that if you start talking quietly, people have to listen. People go, shh, shh, gotta listen to what he says. I can't hear him. And it brings people in. It's a very subtle choice in delivery. And it just, when Reigns does these promos and he's sitting in the extravagant office and he's talking about family and he's hugging his cousin, it is so like mafia, isn't it? It's so mafia and about the family, and the mafia boss will never tell you directly what he wants you to do. You have to figure it out and assume it and all that kind of stuff. It was great. But he hugs his cousin and he still looks very frustrated and annoyed by this. And it was just such a great segment because it was pure manipulation. It's pure manipulation. Reigns is already turning his cousin against his own brother. And Jey at this point, because he's been in Reigns' shadow for a while now and he's been doing everything to serve Reigns and he's been doing everything to get the approval of Roman Reigns as the head of the table. What does Reigns do when he wants to manipulate him? He gives him a little bit of affection. Just gives him that just little bit of affection that Jay's been craving. And it's such good storytelling. It's brilliant storytelling. It really is. So this then goes to a Street Profits backstage segment, which is setting up a promo for their match with the Usos next week. It was pretty fun, pretty quick. Montez Ford, as always, is just, like I said with Big E earlier on, dripping with charisma. That guy really can be anything in WWE. There's so much potential for Montez Ford. Obviously, in the ring, on the mic, everything is brilliant. He does an impression of the Usos, which was great. Talks about the Uso Penitentiary. And the match next week's going to be great, isn't it? There's no doubt about that. The Usos versus Street Profits, that's a money match, if I've ever heard one. So I'm excited to see that. We then go to a Sami Zayn backstage segment. It's like 4 backstage segments in a row at this point, by the way. I was like, oh my gosh, why are we getting so many backstage segments? So he calls Caleb Braxton a corporate hack, which I incredibly enjoyed. That was one of these things that just Sami Zayn on the mic as well. Talk about someone that's committed to the character. Sami Zayn is just fantastic. This whole conspiracy thing is brilliant. So he's talking about he'll never forget the conspiracy perpetrated against him and that he'll win the Intercontinental Championship back tonight. He didn't, obviously. And we then, before we get to the main event, we then get the announcement that on Raw this week, we will get a Women's Tag Team Championship rematch. As we have Natalya and Tamina defending the Women's Tag Team Championships against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. And it's just, I told you earlier on, once Shayna Baszler tapped out Natalya, you go, well, they're going to get a rematch. And we're going to get another match between these two tag teams. And it's 50-50 booking and it's rematches. And they said this, like, people at home were going to be like, well, actually, I was really on the fence about when I was going to watch Raw or not. I wasn't sure. I was undecided. But once I heard we were going to get that, 15th millionth, which is good grammar, but, this 10,000th rematch for the Women's Tag Team Championship, now I'm going to tune in. Oh, God, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I'll be early. I'll watch it again 10 times. I'll watch it all the other times they've done it recently. It's like they're actively trying to get people not to watch the show. And the classic setup of the champions got pinned, so their challengers get a tag title match. Oh, my God. Can we do something original, please? Please. So frustrating. Anyway, we get into the main event. Fatal 4-way match for the Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens versus Big E versus the Intercontinental Champion Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship. This was brilliant. This was such a great TV main event. This is what you expect a TV main event of a show on Fox to be, or any big major show for WWE. This is what you expect from a TV main event. This was great. This was so good. Obviously, 4 guys in the match, all great workers, all great personalities as well. Lived up to expectations. I really enjoyed this TV main event. One of the better TV main events for a while. SmackDown, to be honest, their TV main events recently have been very, very good. You think about Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and now this Intercontinental Championship Fatal 4-way match. Loved it. Really, really good. Apollo Crews, his gear, by the way, is tremendous, I must say. It's very good. This is the first thing I noted on my notes. And it's funny, when you read these notes back, you just see the stream of consciousness that is kind of coming out of me as I'm typing. Apollo Crews' gear is tremendous. Big E hits a splash onto the apron, onto heels. He just loves the apron. Apollo Crews, speaking of the apron, hits a moonsault off the apron. And I thought this when I was watching this match, and when I saw the Apollo Crews promo earlier on in the evening. Like I said, I'm not massive on this, the Nigeria embracing the roots gimmick. It is what it is. I think it's still very... WWE has this weird thing for nationalizing gimmicks. If you're not from the United States, or you take up another country as your gimmick, whether that is Nigeria, Iran, Russia, even the United Kingdom, Canada. If you're not from the United States, or your gimmick is that you are not from the United States, that makes you a heel. And it's like, it's so old, but not in a good way. Not in a good way. And it's so, this guy's foreign, this guy's now a heel, and he's from Nigeria, so obviously his big backup would be called Commander Aziz. And it's just, it's gimmicks that just would be not out of place in 1985 facing Hulk Hogan in Saturday Night's Main Event. And people might say, well, a lot of people watched it back then. Yeah, but that was in 1985. I mean, time has passed since then. But what I will say is that Apollo Crews, in my opinion, really is making the most out of what is a bad gimmick. The gimmick isn't great. It is stuck in the 1980s. It is Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard going back on the network going, we should do that again. When did we do that? 1980, 1987? I'll bring it back. Bring it back. Hasn't been done for a while. There's a reason why. But Apollo Crews, man, he's making it work somehow. And that is a testament to Apollo Crews. The sign of a great worker is being given bad creative and somehow making it work, making money out of it. So you've got to give him credit. You really do. And he's embracing it. He's all in on it. And you have to give him credit for that. So Sami Zayn hits a moonsault of his own off the barricade, which was nice. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens had some great back and forth spots. Apollo Crews hits a Death Valley driver onto Kevin Owens onto the apron. There was so much apron stuff in this match. Big E hits his spear through the ropes onto Crews, which always terrifies me because one day he is going to hurt himself. I mean, he nearly has a million times. It's just terrifying. It was just a fantastic match, fast paced. There was chaos, but in a good way, spot after spot. It was just, and everyone was just so crisp. Everyone's timing was just spot on. We had a real fun spot where Big E hit a German suplex on Apollo Crews that actually turned into a throw on Sami Zayn as well. That was great. That was followed by Kevin Owens hitting a frog splash for a 2 count. Zayn hits the Blue Thunder Bomb for a 2 count. Kevin Owens hits a pop-up powerbomb on Apollo Crews for a 2 count. It was just, all these spots were happening so just, again, crisp after each other. The timing was just great. Like when you're watching like a really good ladder match, like those TLC matches, and those matches are a bit calculated or regimented in the sense that they go spot, 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 and it's kind of like it's like writing it down. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of like that. This match was kind of the same, but they just, when you nail it, it flows really well, and they nailed it. They really did nail it. It was fantastic. No cluster. And obviously you got the potential of multi-man matches to turn into a mess very quickly, but it didn't. It was fantastic. So Zayn does a reverse exploder on Kevin Owens onto the outside. Big E hits a big Uranage onto Sami Zayn, hits the big ending on Apollo Crews. Looks like he's going to have the match won, but Commander Aziz breaks up the pinfall. Big E, though, shoves Aziz into the ring post, and you're thinking, right, he's going to finally beat Apollo Crews, and then the lights go off, kind of. I don't think that they got the presentation of where they were going to go with this Aleister Black entrance perfectly right, I'm going to be honest, because the lights kind of went out, but then were kind of on. The shot that they were looking for is that everything's surrounded by darkness, but there's this big beam of light, and then out of the beam of light comes Aleister Black. They kind of got there in the end, but I don't know if they really got the image that they were looking for. Either way, once they get that right, that will look great. So Aleister Black suddenly appears out of the light. Big E still got Apollo Crews, or he's going to hit Apollo Crews with the Big E. Aleister Black walks into the ring. Black mass kick to Big E. Of course, there's no disqualifications in a fatal 4-way. And Apollo Crews pins Big E and retains the Intercontinental Championship. Aleister Black is back. Still got the dodgy eye from the injury from Seth Rollins way back when in 2020. Loved it. I loved the main event. I loved the return of Aleister Black. Obviously, I'm a huge Aleister Black fan. Aleister Black, by the way, as well, wasn't wearing tights anymore, which is, it's the little things like that, but that was good. And Apollo Crews versus Aleister Black's an interesting one, because that's two guys that, neither one have been a world champion. They're Apollo Crews, Aleister Black is someone that I think has a ton of potential and easily could be a world champion in WWE. He was so good in NXT, And he is a good promo, and he is an interesting character, and he does have a different look and a unique presentation. Big E, everyone knows what Big E can do. I think it would be a crime if he doesn't become a world champion at some point in his career. That could be very, very soon. As I mentioned before, if Money in the Bank's tomorrow, I'm putting the Money in the Bank briefcase on Big E. I think it's that easy. So a feud between these two is interesting because it's two guys that haven't really feuded before, which is new. And new's good, different's good. I've mentioned the problem with Raw, and some of the problem with parts of this show is that it's feuds and matches we've seen time and time again. So different feuds, people that haven't faced off before, that's a thumbs up. That's interesting. Two guys that can work, have charisma, can do promos, that's a thumbs up. My only concern with this would be, obviously, one of the guys here has to lose. Who loses here? Because I don't really want either guy to lose. Aleister Black has to be booked strong. He's just returned to television after like 9 months off. So you would think in any match that they have, Aleister Black's got to win. What do these losses do for Big E? Does it give him sympathy as a babyface? Maybe. I don't know if that's really the way to go, but does it matter if Big E wins the Money in the Bank briefcase in July anyway? I don't know. It certainly was an ending that I don't think anyone saw coming. It's an ending that I liked a lot. It was a match that I liked a lot. It was a show that, as always, SmackDown, very good show. Very good show. Was it perfect? No. There are certainly elements of it that I didn't like, but you know, whether it's Roman Reigns just being a genius, everything Roman Reigns segments are fantastic. Whether it's the more definition to this Seth Rollins character, which I think is great. Loved that. Whether it's now Aleister Black returning, all of it I think is just very compelling, very compelling. So I was a huge fan of seeing Aleister Black return. Obviously, it sets up, as I mentioned, the feud with Big E, who faces off against Apollo Crews next for the Intercontinental Championship. That's interesting. Did they transition into it being Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Apollo Crews? I don't know. I don't know who would face Apollo Crews right now, which again is an interesting situation. But I think if you're going to look at some of the big matches going into Hell in a Cell, looking at the way the land lays here, I would say we're probably going to get Roman Reigns versus Jimmy Uso, Universal Championship. I think we're probably going to get Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. I think we're going to get Aleister Black, Big E. And the rest, I guess, is TBT. To be determined? TBD. I mean, this is how late it is. It's 4 a.m. over here. This is the commitment that you can literally do trying to figure things out. Well, maybe that's the best way to end it. Look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinions. What are your thoughts on SmackDown tonight? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings, get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this stream today, and I'll speak to you again